Salve, ladies. It's good to see you again. Today's lesson is going to be on chapter 29 of Wheelock. We are going to learn the imperfect subjunctive, as well as the present and imperfect of sum and possum. And we're going to add one more subordinate subjunctive clause to our arsenal. So without further ado, the imperfect subjunctive. So there are four tenses of the subjunctive, right? There's no future subjunctive or future perfect subjunctive. So there's just the four tenses. You've already learned one, the present, last chapter. This chapter you're going to learn the imperfect. So you'll have two tenses of the subjunctive that you can do. The imperfect subjunctive is very simple, to form at least. All you need is the second principal part, and then you put the active personal endings or the passive personal endings on it. So present active infinitive, personal endings, that's it. And it works the exact same way for all the conjugations, which is super helpful. You always got to love it when a Latin verb will work, or a Latin rule will work for all the verbs. It's very exciting. So without further ado, let's take a look at how to form the imperfect active subjunctive and the imperfect passive subjunctive for each of our paradigm verbs. So first conjugation, paradigm verb, laudo, laudare, laudavi, laudatum. The second principal part, of course, is laudare. So that is the base, the stem, onto which we're going to add our endings. Okay, so laudarem, laudares, laudaret, laudaremus, laudaratus, laudarent. So imperfect active subjunctive for laudo. In the passive, laudarer, laudararis, laudaretur, laudaremor, laudaremini, laudarentor. Now you may notice that I haven't put up any translations to go along with the conjugation charts. And the reason for that is because you really can't translate an imperfect, perfect, or pluperfect subjunctive without the context in the sentence. The reason for this is because they're pretty much exclusively used in subordinate subjunctive clauses like purpose clauses, or the one we're going to learn today, result clauses. And there are many different types of subordinate subjunctive clauses. So until you know what kind of clause the imperfect or the perfect or the pluperfect subjunctive is going to be used in, you really can't offer a translation. It's not like the present where you can use it in adjussive subjunctive and an independent use of the subjunctive. And therefore you have an independent translation that you can use. So there is no translation that you can do sort of independent of the sentence context. So let's move along. Second conjugation, moneo, monere. So we have our second principal part, our present active infinitive, and then onto that we're going to add our ending. So monerem, moneres, moneret, moneremus, moneratus, monerent. And in the passive, monerer, monereris, moneretor, moneremor, moneremini, and monerentor. Our third conjugation, ago, agere, agi, actum, we have our second principal part, our present active infinitive, agere. So our imperfect active subjunctive is going to be agerem, ageres, ageret, ageremus, ageratus, agerent. Our imperfect passive subjunctive is going to be agerer, agereris, ageretor, ageremor, ageremini, agerentor. Our third IO, capio, capere, capi, captum. Our second principal part is capere. So our imperfect active subjunctive is caperem, caperes, caperet, caperemus, caperatus, caperent. And then in the passive, caperer, capereris, caperetur, caperemor, caperemini, caperentor. And then finally, our fourth conjugation, we have audio. So audio, audire, audivi, auditum, and we have audirem, audires, audiret, audiremus, audiratus, audirent, and then in the passive, audiver, audiveris, audiretor, audiremor, audiremini, audirentor. Okay. Now, Pretty easy. And writing down all of those, I hope you got some good practice in working on the pattern of how to form the imperfect subjunctive. You might get getting a little bored with it. Yeah, it works the same way with every conjugation, but that's good because writing down all 5 of these paradigm verbs means that you've gotten some good practice and some good memorization in. Okay, the next thing that we have to look for, or we have to learn, is how to form the present and imperfect of the irregular verbs sum and its compound possum. Just like in the indicative, in the subjunctive, sum and possum are irregular and they just have to be memorized. You just have to know what they are. Also, just like the indicative, sum really is a compound of, a possum, excuse me, really is a compound of sum. And so if you know sum, you know possum. So let's look first at sum esse fui futorum, to be. The present subjunctive, just memorize the forms. It's sim, cease, sit, simus, situs, sint. And because this is present subjunctive, you can translate these particular verbs. So, sem, let me be, like sem beata, let me be happy. Cease, let you be. Sit, let it be. It's the Beatles form. Simus, let us be. Situs, let you be, or let y'all be, depending on where you grew up. And sent, let them be. The imperfect subjunctive for sum esse is going to form in the same pattern as regular verbs, which is exciting. I love it when that happens. So again, you need your second principal part, your present infinitive, and you just add the ending. So assem, assace, asset, assamus, assatus, assent. Again, if you know sum, you know possum because the present subjunctive is just the present subjunctive of sum plus pos. So possum, possis, posset, possimus, possitus, possent. So possum, let me be able. Possis, let you be able. Posset, let him be able or let her be able. So on and so forth. And again, the imperfect subjunctive for possum is just the second principal part plus the endings, just like you would expect it to be. So possum, possace, posset, possamus, possatus, possent. Okay, now that we have learned those forms, what I want to look at now is a use of the subjunctive, another use of the subjunctive. And that is going to be result clauses. So result clauses are another subordinate subjunctive clause, just like the purpose clause. Okay, that was the first subordinate subjunctive clause that you learned. This is going to be the second. Result clauses show the result of the action of the main verb, just like purpose clauses show the purpose of the action of the main verb. Okay, so how do we form a purpose clause? Purpose clauses are set up with the conjunction ut, just like with the purpose clause. However, the difference is that a negative result clause is not set up by using ne, like a negative purpose is. Instead, you use ut plus a negative word. Now, what's a negative word? A negative word is any word that it means something negative, like not, or no, or never, or nothing, or no one, or so on and so forth. So, for example, a negative word that can set up a negative result clause is known, not, nihil, nothing, nemo, no one, nullus, no, numquam, never, and, which is a little bit tricky admittedly, ne quidem, because remember that ne quidem means not even. So if you want to set up a negative purpose clause and you see ne, make sure you're looking for that ne quidem, okay, so that not even, so on and so forth. For the most part, you translate the conjunction ut in the result clause as that. Okay? Now, because both the purpose clause and the result clause are set up with the conjunction ut, you might be afraid that you're going to get a little confused between the two. But the result clause is nice because it gives us a signal. right? A hint in the main clause of the sentence that tells us that perhaps this is going to be a purpose clause instead of, oh, excuse me, a result clause instead of a purpose clause. What hint is that? Well, it's one of these qualitative adjectives or adverbs, okay? The qualitative adverbs essentially mean so, okay? The examples of them would be ita, tam, or seek. And the qualitative adjective is tantus, tanta, tantum, so great, or so much, anything like that. And when you see those in the main clause in this of the sentence, that is signaling to you that that ut is probably a conjunction that is setting up a result clause. So let's look at a couple examples, or 3 examples actually, on this slide. Tanta fecit ut urbs tota ab hostibus serva rater. Okay, so let's get our little handy dandy pen. There we go. So our main verb, fecit, she did such great things, ut, that the entire city, the tota urbs, was saved from the enemy. Yay. Our next example, not having the qualitative adjective like we did in the first example, tanta, we have the qualitative adverb in this one. Viatam angusta erat ut cari pauci in urbam venire possent. So the road was so narrow, tam angusta, ut, that cari pauci, few carts, possent venire, oh, simple complementary infinitive, don't you miss those, were able, so few carts were able to come in urbam, into the city. And our last example, orator pro pace tam benedixit ut nemo pugnare inciperet. Okay, so the orator spoke for peace, pro pace, so well, ut, that nemo, that no one, so we have a negative result clause here, that no one began pugnare, to fight. Okay, ladies, bring in your notes tomorrow. I'll answer any questions you might have, so make sure you jot those down so you can ask me tomorrow. And I hope you have a great night. Walete.